On the local front, anglers fishing off the 6th Street Dam wall await the coming of the walleye. When enough the walleyes arrive before the close of the season, those old-timers and youngsters alike will be ready with their arsenal of hair jigs. I've been told that many of these fishermen have been using their own hand-tied jigs for many years. And Tiger's Bait Shop has reported an upswing in sales in their version of hair jigs. After hearing about this excitement, it seemed the only natural thing to do was to learn how to tie my own. And after all,
My box, pull it off.
the only place that you could buy them was at Tiger's, and he charged 89 cents a piece. At the rate that I lose jigs, I calculated that my annual savings would be $1,497.60 if I used jigs every time I fished. I'm not sure yet if I'm lucky or not that Bill Riley has initiated me to this new sport. My wife found some comfort in knowing that my desire for winter fishing has subsided some this past season. It was almost a gimme that I might be around once in a while. That is, until Bill showed me how to tie my first jig. Now I just can't help disappearing to the basement to tie up every conceivable concoction of hair, feathers, string, Christmas tree tinsel, and anything else I could get my hands on. Penny has become concerned ever since our Springer Spaniel suddenly stopped shedding. And so far, I've been lucky that she has not committed me to the funny farm. It almost happened after a recent Sunday afternoon drive when she noticed my longing for the roadkill along the way. So it is with this warning that you may decide that it is best for you to avoid this disease by walking out the door right now. Should you stay, don't blame us. Who knows, you might even reach heights of euphoria that exceeds catching that trophy fish. How? Catching that trophy fish on a lure of your own creation, the hair jig. Take her away, Bill.
Okay, we're going to tie a hair jig, deer hair jig, which seems to be killing them on the Grand River.
That's what they use on birds.
Let's start out with a cord jig that has a little spur here to hold the worm of the body of a worm on. It's going to get on our way, so I just file it off. Now this vise rotates. The other vices you have to turn it around by hand, but this vise does rotate. Okay, we started out. I'm using a number A rod winding thread, red, and a bobbin. I don't know what they cost.
Why do you put that on there first?
For
Without anything on there, Bill.
okay, we gotta get this thread started and make a good base.
They're $4, by the way, for the bobbins.
Yeah,
At
$4.
Allen Bob's.
Make a good base of thread on there, on the shaft. I'm just going to tie a plain white jig. Pick out, I don't know if you guys can see me or not. Don't try to work with too much hair. That's everybody's problem is they're trying to work with too much hair. You pick out what you think will be the right amount, tie it down or cut it down close to the skin as you can without cutting other hair off. And here's where this bag comes in. Pull out the little fuzzies on the bottom.
Bill says that saved his marriage.
Yes, this you guys that are married want to stay that way. Kind of keep your loose hair corralled a little bit, and the wife is a lot more happier. Now, I'm tying right-handed. This is the way right-handers tie. I'm left-handed, but I think I tie right-handed.
You do it opposite the way I do, so.
Well, I hold the hair in my right hand, place it on top so I can gauge the gauge the length where I want it. I can move it back and forth. I get it where I want it, and then I go from one hand to the other and set it down pretty good on top here. Make a couple of fairly loose wraps. Position that hair right there on the jig. Now, when I wind tight wraps around here, I have to hold this here, the hair, right behind the thread to keep it from spinning around the shaft. I want to keep it right there on the top. 4 or 5 times, then you can release the bobbin. The weight of the bobbin will keep tension on that thread. And you take your scissors, get up there and clip tight to the head. That's it. The deer hair, you notice, will want to flare out as you tighten it down. When we get a little further along, I'll show you how to lay that back down. Okay, now we'll have to do it on both sides. Now this is the hard side right here. Because we got to work with that jaw, that vice in our way. Again, I get another bunch of hair. Try not to get too much. Position that so it's about the same length as what I have on the other side. Put it down there, good and tight on there. Make another 2 or 3 good tight wraps here. Pick that up. You got to get it down pretty good, because when you cut it, it puts a tension on there, and sometimes it'll pull that hair around if you haven't got it down tight enough. Check that baby out.
How do you make the hair spread out so it covers the sides like you do that? You know, most of my jigs end up
Well,
nailing,
yeah.
but
Well, you can see, I just push it down around on the shaft. So you're just going to have to try it yourself. Now it comes the part where you're winding that down good and tight. Deer hair has to be wound tight or she's going to come out. Once one piece of hair comes out, you're going to lose the whole mess. And going to make a nice looking head there. Wind it up till you get everything covered.
So that's because it's hollow? Is that why you have to wind it?
It's hollow, and that's one reason it flares. Now, to make that lay down a little, I'm gonna pull it back like so, and make half a dozen wraps that aren't too tight, and that'll keep that from flaring out and make that lay back a little. See how it did that? Not flaring out near as far. Now here comes the hard part, finishing. You're using a whip knot, which is a series of half hitches into one, and this is the hardest thing I can have to get across. The whip knot, I lay it across, and I'll wind back over the thread, keeping this side still on one side and wrapping with the other. About 4 or 5 times. And you take your thread, your pliers, just pull that right down like that.
Very professional.
Then to finish it off, we use a head cement. You can use clear fingernail polish.
You told me that wasn't necessary.
It's not necessary, but if you're tying them for somebody or tying them to sell. I generally lose them so fast I don't have to worry about them coming apart before I lose them.
Well, I'd fall into that category.
There you are. It cost you 89 cents a tiger, $1.50 at Allen Bob's.
Do one of your minnow imitations, would you?
Okay, now we'll get into it. We'll do one with a.
Were you start tying did you steal that stuff before you got into this?
Oh yeah, yeah. I just started this just a couple of weeks ago.
How long you been tying?
Oh, for years. I'm going really slow now. When I'm tying, I don't know, Bob, they have trouble watching me. I go so fast.
After you do that, you'll just have these guys tie some up. That's the best way to do it.
Okay, now I found that just about any streamer pattern will work on a jig. The only problem we got with jigs is this little sleeve right here. If that sleeve wasn't there, it'd make it a lot easier
You
tying.
can buy them without the sleeve.
Well, I haven't seen them because I'd like to.
If you want them without the sleeve, you get into any of the magazines, they got them.
Yeah.
Because starting them, you just wind over the end. Now this bobbin, the thread comes off fairly easy, so I control the tension with my hand. Like I don't know if you guys can see me doing that or not. Like I'm pulling it out and then winding, pulling it out and then winding. You want to leave the thread out in the center of that sleeve. You leave the last wrap that you make where you want the wrap to go over your first wrap to go over the hair.
That's a homemade bob.
This? No. Sir, that's Orvis. Okay, now this pattern I got from a streamer pattern. It's a black nosed dace, which is a little stream minnow. It's a little forage minnow, and it's really quite lifelike. Now I start out with the pattern is white on bottom, black in the middle, and brown on top. I'm going to start, the black would be the lateral line of the minnow. I'm going to start with that first, which is different than what I showed Bob, I know. Couple of three
You have to
winds,
keep a couple stickers.
couple of three winds, and tighten her down.
You can't find everything.
No,
You'll reproduce all your
Oh,
house.
yeah, you'll take all your work right there.
okay, now this part of the jig is going to be the bottom, so that's why I want the white. Set it on top. Couple lines. The trick is with this, when you're using different colors, is keep the colors separate so you can see each color.
So you keep them separate by pinching them together.
Pinch
a
them,
little bit more?
tight behind where you're winding. So what you want to do is keep that right in one place. So when you release it, you've got the two colors right there.
If you let it go.
If you let it go, it's going to roll.
They blend.
It's going to roll because as this thread tightens, it's going to roll it around.
Can you show me that?
Yeah, you should do that part.
Right up there.
He doesn't explain everything unless you ask him.
I told you I was going to movie star. Now here's a bucktail that I dyed brown. You can use the back of this, but it's hard finding any that's long enough. So I just went ahead and dyed one brown. Get the right length. Set that down. Couple of turns.
Probably tied a few $100
always wind in the same direction. Always, always, always.
You used to do it too?
Having a bait shop, boy.
Now, fly tying thread is generally pre-waxed, but this is pretty heavy-duty tying, and I don't not having any trouble with this rod winding. I can show you guys how to tie without a bobbin, if you want me to. It's not that difficult. In fact, some guys prefer not to use bobbins. And the whip finish. You don't want to put too many turns around in your whip finish, or make them too tight that you can't pull the loop through.
This is a good looking minnow.
Isn't that great?
Yeah. They call that, that's
Black nose dace.
yeah.
This what I caught that walleye on a grand,
Yeah, with untipped.
untipped, just like that. Just give it a little bit of action. Other stuff I use that you can use on your jigs. You can use this Flashabou, they call it.
I got about a grocery bag full of stuff you want.
This stuff here glows in the dark, and this is good if you.
That looks phosphorescent too.
Yeah,
doesn't it?
well, if you're tying a pure white jig, then you take a few of these and just mix in with your hair, and it makes it a little bit more.
You can do the same with the temple too.
Yeah. Well, that's,
Kind of gives it that shad.
I don't know. Here's an Arctic Foxtail that I like.
Mike, did you get a close up of this thing?
Yeah, I did. I think I got it.
You guys want to try it? Okay, I figured out a way to duplicate a fuzzy grub. If anybody's interested.
Oh, yeah,
in
why don't you tie that? That's a good one. I'd like to get that on the tape also. That'd be excellent.
Okay.
How do you do it? I mean, you tie one as a fuzzy grub?
Yeah, I tie a duplicate.
I make fuzzy grub.
Oh, do ya?
Yeah.
Well, I don't know. Well, maybe I should talk to you. I was sitting there.
Well, you use a piece of worm and you pull a piece of.
You want a piece of worm there, Bill? Or oh, you got one. I didn't know you had.
I got one.
Okay.
Well, you know, these fuzzy grubs are pretty good baits, but they're a little bit expensive if you start losing them all the time. So I take a little curly tail, trim it up a little. For this, I leave that little spur right on the jig. The problem I'm having with this will be evident in a minute.
Something you can do while you're recuperating.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I got a ton of it to do. I tell you, the 8 weeks are gonna be long enough.
After I cut that off, I put it and slide it just as far up as I can. Now on this one you have to use a little bit thinner thread, and this is a 3/0 monocord I have here that's available in practically any fly tying shop, Al Bob's, Orbis, Ken Arms. And I start up just up as far as that shank as I can. Make several turns, kind of wrap a little foundation on there. Now, fuzzy grubs, they use the marabou, and I didn't have any, and I tried using this Arctic Fox, and I found that this works great. This Arctic Fox is very fine fur. is a little different from here because you've got 3 or 4 different. You got guard hairs and you got under fur and. There. I just put this on. Now this here, I want this to spin around. So I'm taking 2 loose turns of my thread and I'm letting go of it. And you can see what happened to that. It just kind of turned around the hook. Did you see that?
No, your hand was in the way.
Oh,
That's okay.
well,
No, that's
okay.
all right. No, no.
This already, Fox has got a lot of fuzzy, but I want to tie it down tight. Throw a good whip knot in it. If you guys, if you can't get onto the whip knot, a series of half hitches will do. But then you should use the glue. And I just push that down.
Let's get a I'll get a close-up of that one.
Oh, okay.
I don't know. I can show you how to do that with a piece of hackle too.
Yeah, pretty fuzzy grub. I don't think I
There
need
you
any
go.
glue for it. I had enough
put
that I
it
could push
down
them
by
right in
the,
there. And I put
or
a
just
spot
hold
of
it in
glue
front
on
of the,
push them right in there.
yeah, right there.
Oh, I see.
And
And then you just got the body, see? And you can thread them on. Now they're glued in there. You run them on just like that.
What is it, a little hook like a
I had
Okay,
a little,
great,
I
thanks.
had a, trying to think of what it was I did use. I used a toothpick, I think. I split the end of the toothpick and then shoved it right straight through. Put a little glue on the back side, but to glue it in there. And that was the fuzzy grub.
Well, how'd you get the hair?
Just pushed it through.
Pushed it through with a.
I think I split a toothpick or something and pushed it through. Put the glue on it so it'll stay in place.
Oh, I see. Well, that's
Use a Elmer's, or I mean that
super glue.
super glue. Then you've got the body made, see? And it'll stay in there. That's the way they're made anyway. If you look at them,
yeah, that goes the whole length.
goes the whole length of it, right?
So
Very
let's try
good.
The same thing. Anybody want to try it? We've got lots of vices. What we can do is go step by step, follow me step by step, and I can show you how to tie without one.